In June of last year, my dad and I installed this Shadowmarq big brake kit onto my Sprinter. I have a 2016 Sprinter 2500. It's the 4x4 low roof. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I've had the van since about November of 2020. And to date, this has easily been the best performance upgrade I've made to the van. It's my daily driver, and living just outside of Austin, where traffic can flow from 60 miles per hour to a dead stop. As much as I enjoy driving the van, the stock brakes leave a lot to be desired. So, stepping up to these 6-pot brakes up front, oversized rotors, it's given me significantly more confidence now to go through highway speeds and through cities. So I took my time doing the install, especially because I was filming it as I did so. And it took about 2 days all in all, and I've condensed it down here to 15 minutes. We started off on the passenger side. The biggest obstacle that I ran into was breaking the rotor away from the hub. You're going to see here in a minute that do not follow my technique where I use a pry bar to break it away, because foreshadowing, it does come back to bite me on the driver's side in a terrible way. So you can see me here. It may work on this side. It does not work well on the other side. As far as the kit goes, everything comes very well packaged, and the instructions are clear and detailed. I've DIY'd almost everything on the van, with the exception of the RRE subfloor and the GTRV pop top. I've got a video that I'm going to put together on the pop top here in a little while. And the Shadowmarq kit is exceptionally well put together. You can really tell that the team took their time in not only packaging everything, but creating the instructions. And even when I did have questions, the Shadowmarq team was quick to respond to my emails. You'll need to replace the factory lug bolts with studs and lug nuts, which you can see here. The corrosion on the hubs and rotors was a bit of an issue. Here I had to seat the rotor onto the hub, and when I had initially put the caliper on, it wasn't sitting properly, so here you can see I used a piece of wood to tap it into place, and that way it wouldn't mar the finish. And then the rotor bolt was able to seat properly, and then I could mount the caliper to the mounting bracket. I was really excited to swap in these braided brake lines as part of the kit. I feel like they're a huge step up from the OEM lines, and it really does add to the aesthetic of the big brake kit. And so it felt like it was finally coming together when I was able to get these installed. All right, now on to the driver's side, and this is where I ran into two major issues. The first is this rotor retaining bolt, which had seized, and I actually snapped the head off my Torx bit trying to get it out, and that little piece of Torx was then wedged firmly into the bolt head. I had to come around from the other side and drill it out, and I was so excited when I finally knocked out that little piece of Torx.
Yay!
Once I got that little piece of Torx out, the bolt came out freely. I wasn't able to find a replacement at any of the standard auto parts stores, so my dad made a run to the dealership for me to get a replacement the following morning. And here you can see I'm taking the bolt out and the hole that I had to cut through it. But alas, my triumph would be short-lived. I thought I could tackle one more piece of the puzzle before calling it a night, and I tried using the pry bar method on this seized rotor, and in doing so, right there, I unseated the axle from the transfer case. And at this point, I was just crestfallen. I thought that I had royally screwed things up. I had to replace this Bilstein strut, and I dropped the bolts out of it already. I do wonder if maybe they'd still been in place if the breaker bar method wouldn't have levered out the axle. But without the strut holding up the assembly, I used this ratchet strap to prop it up. And here, I decided to just change the angle slightly, and lo and behold, I was able to pop it right back into place. And I got that on film. Holy! I was convinced that I just turned a weekend project into a month-long project, and the relief I felt when I got it reseated was something else. From there on, the rest of the install went on smoothly. We used a Mighty Vac pneumatic system to help bleed the brakes, and it really cut down the time needed. And so I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested. With this upgrade, I also had to step up to 17-inch rims, and I chose the Method 701s and then mounted Toyo Open Country AT3s. Most of my driving is road and highway, so I went with a slightly smaller tire at a 255 70R17, and they've been working great. I've been using them for about 8 months now, and even last month when we were in Colorado, trudging through snow and up over the mountains, they worked phenomenally. Onto the rears, I found better luck using the onboard bottle jack than I did my floor jack. It takes longer to set up, but it gave me the clearance that I needed. You can see on the ground there the felt absorbent pad, which I picked up from O'Reilly's and was really useful in catching any errant brake fluid. And where I couldn't put it, I used the rotor boxes, which worked out really nicely. On the rears, the only major issue I ran into was seized rotors again. And so, learning from the mistakes of working on the fronts, this time I chose to take a different route. So, still used plenty of PB Blaster to try and break through that corrosion, but also enlisted the help of my wife, and we took a slightly different physics approach. And I didn't mind marring these old rotors since I was going to recycle them anyways, and the new method worked out great.
Yay! Fist bump.
The rears require a bit of trimming of the dust shield, and I thought about getting a sheet metal cutter, but I haven't needed one before or since, so tin snips and a metal file sufficed. I purchased the wheel studs directly from Shadowmarq, but had to source the lug nuts alongside the wheels. I ended up buying the wheels and tires from Discount Tire. They had the best price in town, and plus I go in for rotation and balance each time I change my oil.
Brake pad is on the inboard side. Oh, that looks sharp. We take our other. There we go.
One thing to note when seating the brake pads is to ensure the pins are all the way in, including the collars. And then a nice little pro tip is that in the directions, Shadowmarq recommends repurposing the brake bleed caps from the old calipers to cap the brake lines, and it worked great.
The brake fluid doesn't go on your driveway or your workshop floor. That's nice and snug.
One consequence of the upgrade is the brake wear sensor is no longer usable, but still needs to remain connected. So I sealed it with shrink tubing and then pulled it out of the way with the included zip tie.
So the sensor has this little copper thing on it.
And yes, rest assured that I did trim the zip tie.
It looks like it's really easy to lose.
If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. For me personally, the Shadowmarq Big Brake Kit has been worth it. Since the upgrade, we've driven from Central Texas to Florida and back, up the East Coast all the way to Montreal and Ottawa and back, and then most recently for a week of skiing up in Colorado and back. And they've made a huge difference in stopping our fully loaded van multiple times on each trip. I'll leave a list of tools I used in the description below. And if you'd like to follow along or found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.